Hi everybody, it's the first day of Composition 2. This is your first content video. I'm really excited about it. It's my first video too. Please be gentle with me because I'm not a professional video maker, so we're going to try to get through this. I wanted to start the class today by just talking a little bit about the assignment that we're working on. In Comp 1, you wrote a series of small essays. For Comp 2, we're writing one longer essay. For this first week, we're just preparing to write the essay. So for 2 days this week, we're going to think about topics. For 2 more days, we're going to do internet research. And then for 2 days, the Friday and the Monday after that, we're going to do field research. So part of your research for this essay needs to include something empirical, an interview, a survey, an observation. And we're going to look at a student example today, so you'll see what that looks like. Then we're going to work on the 3 sections of this large essay. The first one has to do with findings or evidence. Then we're going to spend 4 days on the second section, which is analysis or consequences. And then we'll spend 4 more days on the final section, starting there and going through week 4, which is recommendations or alternatives. We're going to put it all together with an introduction, a conclusion, and an abstract. And then for the final week, we will present all of this information. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood what we were covering. For right now, though, we're just going to look at a student example of the type of essay you're going to write. And then you're going to have a homework assignment responding to that. So let's get started. I'm going to share a different screen with you and go into chapter 12. I'm already in the middle of chapter 12. Let me go back to the beginning. Chapter 12 is the chapter that we're covering for the report. The whole chapter will be available for you on Blackboard, but for today, we're just going to look at the student example. So it's not on page 1, 2, or 3. Okay, there we go. I'd like to go through this today and just talk about some of the major parts so that you know what's expected of you when you write this one. So this report, it says, was written for a class that was assigned research reports on gender identity. And the title is Gender Stereotypes and Toys. Is it nature or nurture? This is the person's topic. For your essay, I would like for you to choose a topic that is related to your campus or your career. I am putting that kind of stipulation on you because I want to make sure that it's something really relevant and not something that's already been argued 100 times. Also something that you can actually observe. So let's get into this student example. First of all, you guys know that this information would probably go on a cover page. The cover pages here are going to be exactly like they were in Comp 1. The second page of your essay is going to be an abstract. And an abstract, it says here, is a brief summarization of the entire report. Each section is going to have its own sentence or two, and this will just be a little synopsis of what the whole entire essay is about. So this abstract says, in order to better understand the roles that nature versus nurture play in the formation of gender identity, I performed a field research study at a large chain toy store. So that's his field research. That's the kind of research that I would be expecting you guys to do. There I recorded information about how toys were marketed to young children in terms of images, gender, stereotypes, and other factors. This sentence right here relates to section 1. This is his plan, what he's hoping to find, the methods that he's going to use to go through this. I found that almost all toys were marked by gender, with the exception of learning materials and some products associated with movies, music, or television. So, older toys were only slightly more gender distinctive than infants' toys. These 2 sentences right here have to do with what he found and why this is important. The final section is summarized in this sentence. Finally, I speculate about the repercussions of such marketing on gender identity and how parents might help resist such stereotyping. That definitely sounds like a call to action, so we can see why that would be at the end of the essay. This is a recommendation or an alternative, something that he wants to happen in the future. So we can see that each section has its own sentence. It's been boiled down to just the main details. And maybe this person was focused on marketing, maybe they're focused on psychology, but this certainly has to do with their potential career or things that are going on around them. Okay, so we've talked about the topic in the cover page, we've talked about the abstract. Let's move on to the introduction. Now, they say that the report follows this IMRAD organization. I'm modifying that a little bit. So this one is slightly different in the body than the ones that you're going to be writing, but we will look at two other examples that do have the kind of organization that I'm talking about, that I would like you guys to do. So let's get into this introduction. Scientists and cultural theorists have long argued about whether nature or nurture is responsible for gender differences between men and women. Both sides, however, agree that gender differences can be seen even in very young children. Researchers who argue that gender differences are due to nature usually emphasize the role played by evolution. So we can see here that he's starting to get into the side of the debate that has to do with nature. If I come all the way down here to the next paragraph, those who argue that gender differences are due to nurture usually focus on the differences between boys and girls' socialization in their culture. So I can see that he's describing one side of the debate, and then he goes on to describe the other side of the debate. So he's giving us a little bit of context here. Why is this a controversial issue? What exactly is the controversy? Okay. He continues to talk about the nurture side. And then in the next paragraph, he says, the toys that boys and girls play with offer a good way to study gender differences because toys are some of the earliest and strongest shapers of gender identity. Through reinforcement and modeling, boys and girls are taught to play with toys that are considered appropriate. Infant boys get fire trucks and infant girls get baby dolls. Then adults around them continue to reinforce gender stereotypes consciously and unconsciously by buying specific kinds of toys. Stereotyping is less for infants, according to Campanini, and it grows greater for older children. So he's starting to include some of his research and what some of the experts have said about this. This is more background information, a little bit of context, so we know what his starting point is. This is the information that he was going into the field observation with. Okay, so we've covered both sides. And now we get to the last paragraph of the introduction. Of course, notice that this introduction is much longer than introductions that you've probably been familiar with because we've got a lot of work to do in the introduction. In the margin, we see that this is where the hypothesis is going to come in. The hypothesis is kind of like the thesis. This is what the author assumes is going to happen, what they're trying to prove. So he says, in this research study, my aim was to explore how toys affect gender socialization. My research will not, of course, settle the nature versus nurture debate once and for all. However, by conducting field research at a large toy store, my goal was to gain some insights into how toys shape boys and girls' sense of gender. My hypothesis is that gender differences in toys will help establish gender identity from the beginning of life, and that these differences become more apparent as children grow older. So this is what he was expecting to find out. He goes on to elaborate on that, but we can see what he initially expected. When he gets down here, he's moving into the body. I'd like to cover the body in its own video, so I'm going to stop us here and just summarize. I'm going to move us over to this document. So this is what we've covered so far. We're writing an 8 to 10 page formal revised essay focused on an important issue related to your campus or career. It has to include 3 distinct parts, integrated for cohesion, and that will take significant work. It needs to include a cover page, abstract, introduction, conclusion, and references. You can include charts or graphs, but they won't count towards the total 8 pages. So what we've covered so far is that the cover page is the exact same as in composition. It includes title, name, university, professor, and course. Nothing has changed there. The abstract which we won't write until the very end because we don't know what all the sections are going to say until we write them. It appears on its own page, the second page of the document, and it just briefly describes all of the parts of the report. For the introduction has two jobs. It defines both sides of the issue and it presents the hypothesis. So I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'm going to give us another video to cover this because this is the most important part of the essay. So feel free to move on to the body video now, and I will see you guys in a second.